I am Evan Nierman, and I am a strategic communicator, which essentially means my job is to help organizations and people fight for the truth, to help them deliver the right message to the right people in the right manner at the right time. I'm here today to talk about an important topic, not just for PR people and communicators, but for every single one of us, and that is how we risk our lives online. Now, because I'm a proponent of open communication, I want to be very honest with you. I have a confession to make before we get started here, which is, while I'm excited to be with you, I'm also very sad and I'm very frustrated. Because many of us in this room are going to decide within the next couple of minutes that you don't like what I'm going to tell you, and you don't like what we're going to talk about. And you're going to draw a conclusion about me, and you're going to say, this guy, he's old, he's out of touch. Yeah, he may be wearing jeans and sneakers, but he doesn't understand. He's not a millennial. He's not connected with this new modern world that we're living in. Forget about it. And what's going to be the consequence? Well, for some of us, our boyfriends or girlfriends are going to dump us. For some of us, we're not going to get that job we were hoping to get. We're going to end up getting bullied online. We're going to embarrass ourselves. We're going to get trolled. We're going to face some really unpleasant things. Now, my hope is, for the vast majority of us, the opposite will be true. And instead, what we choose to do online and how we present ourselves is going to have lots of positive consequences. We're going to find that internship that leads to that ideal job that puts us on the path to a career that's interesting and exciting and lucrative and rewarding. We're going to connect with like-minded people who share our values online. And we're going to perhaps even meet a life partner, someone who we spend our lives with. We're going to connect with friends. We're going to find interesting things. We're going to challenge ourselves intellectually. So we've got the carrot and the stick, the good with the bad. And it's going to happen to all of us. Why am I so sure? Because it's happening to people every day. Now, in just a couple of minutes, you're going to walk out of this room equipped with a secret that you can harness for good or for bad. And that secret is, if you share with care and you post with purpose, you can achieve what you're setting out to do in your life. And the other thing I'd like everyone to think about is this notion that we risk our lives online. And in some ways, it's shocking to say it, but our online lives may be even more important than our actual real lives. Today, more than at any other time in history, perception is reality. How we present ourselves makes a difference in how people view us. They draw conclusions about us when they've never actually even met us. So we all have a responsibility if we care what people think about us, and we should care to some extent because it's going to have an impact on the future arc of our lives. We have to consider how we conduct ourselves. Now more than ever, we are connected to a network of people that spans not just our schools, our workplaces, our cities, our towns, our states, our country, but the entire globe. We are connected with people with whom we will never stand in the same room. We'll never look at them face to face. And so these people are going to draw, many of them, conclusions about us based on not a conversation, not an opportunity to dissuade them of any misperceptions that they have or misconceptions. They're going to be looking for information about us. They're going to be looking for clues. And where are they going to be doing that? They're going to be doing that online. So there are two concepts that I think we all need to bear in mind. And I'm going to repeat them a couple of times because I think they're just really critical for us all to think about. The first is to share with care. What do I mean by that? I mean, before we go and we share information on the internet, in whatever form or ever fashion we're doing it, whether that's a blog or that's we're communicating with people on social media, we're active on Facebook, we're posting videos to Musical.ly, we're on Snapchat with our buddies. Every time that we're posting content there, we need to think about safety implications and share with care. Because we may be revealing information about ourselves or information about friends or loved ones or people we know that could literally put them in danger physically at some point. And the other concept is to post with purpose. And by that, I mean, before we rush to just say whatever is on our minds and get it out and enjoy the immediacy and the satisfaction that social media provides as a way to express ourselves, we need to hit the pause button for a moment and think and reflect before we actually post, and make sure that what we're posting serves us well and positions us how we'd like to be thought of, not as a hateful or spiteful person, but someone who's a caring person or respectful. You want some examples? I'm going to give you some examples. And these examples are here to serve as an illustration that for those of us walking around every day, folks like you, folks like me, in the snap of a finger, in an instant, the digital footprint that we have left can have wide-ranging consequences on our lives. Here you see an image of a beauty queen, Miss Teen USA. So clearly the model of what every young woman is supposed to be, if you subscribe to the idea that beauty contests are indeed delivering that. So poised, articulate, smart, beautiful, talented, and yet within a short time after being crowned with her title, people looked through her social media. And what did they find? They found that she had repeatedly used racial epithets on her Twitter feed. Changed the way a lot of people thought about her and whether she was actually the model for how young women should conduct themselves. She was forced to apologize. See the guy in the suit and tie? This gentleman recently lost his job. Why? Because during the State of the Union address, he tweeted. And the tweet that he sent out, I have no doubt, was in the heat of the moment. He felt passionately about what he was saying. And he sent out a tweet that actually was disparaging toward the wife of a serviceman who lost his life in a military operation. So he was roundly criticized by people on both sides of the aisle. There was a big hubbub on social media. And you may be thinking, well, it's social media, it's a tempest in a teapot, it's online. Well, it had real consequences because within a couple of days, his bio had been removed from his company's website, he had been fired, and the company that he worked for was forced to release a statement saying that the comments that their former employee made don't reflect their values, and he was no longer with the company. Next, you have a young man you see at the top of the screen. He was doing what a lot of us do. He was online. He was playing games with some of his friends. After the games were over, they were on Facebook. They were chatting. Someone made a joke. There was banter back and forth. They were teasing each other. Someone said he was crazy, to which he responded, and I'm just paraphrasing here. This is not a direct quote. That's right. I'm so crazy that I'm going to go and I'm going to shoot up a kindergarten. People who he was conversing with, I'm guessing that they understood the context. They felt like they were having this back and forth. They understood that he didn't literally mean that he intended to go and shoot up a kindergarten and have blood raining down. He said it, though. And guess what? It wasn't his friends or the people he knew who saw that comment that created the problem for him. It was someone else who came across these, was alarmed by what she had seen, and contacted the police. Now, mind you, this was within a few weeks of a shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Police at any time would take threats like this seriously, but in that context, they took it even more seriously. They went to his house, they arrested him, they threw him in jail. He spent months in jail, and now he continues to be on trial, facing a long prison sentence for making a terrorist threat. What we do and what we say online, whether we're joking or we're serious, if we don't share with care and post with purpose, they can have serious consequences on us. This gentleman, many of you recognize. He exploded onto the national consciousness during the height of the political season last year. He stood up at a town hall meeting and he asked a very earnest question about energy policy. It was very refreshing for people in a campaign that was marked by a lot of personal attacks and criticism that they weren't focusing on the issue. He asked an issue-based question. He seemed like such a nice, jolly guy, and my goodness, what a beautiful red sweater. Well, it didn't take long before he was catapulted. He went from having 7 Twitter followers, 2 of whom were his grandparents, to having 250,000 Twitter followers. He was shuttling around from television studio to television studio. He was known nationally. He was internet famous. He even was invited to host an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. And it was there that people started looking through the comments that he'd made when he was on Reddit and found some really offensive, really rude, really crude things. So it didn't take him long to rise, and it didn't take long for him to fall either. But if you're thinking that these are just random examples, these don't have anything to do with you and I, these are the exceptions, not the rule, I can tell you that's not true. Because the first place that HR people and prospective employers are looking when they're considering bringing people into their companies is they're looking online. And they're looking at the digital footprint. And they want to see what that person has revealed about him or herself. The gentleman in this picture was actually a teacher. I say was because he was fired. He was fired because of this picture. Because one of the parents at the school where he taught contacted the administration. And they said, we're a Christian school. I found this photo of him posing with alcohol with his wife. I don't think that this represents our values. I don't think that this sets a proper example for our children. And the administration, they agreed, and he lost his job. But here's the interesting thing. He never posted this photograph online. He didn't put it on his Instagram. This was a photo that had been posted years earlier on his wife's Instagram. So someone at the school went online, they were looking around, they weren't even looking at the teacher's accounts. They were looking at someone connected to him, and they happened upon this photo. So the lesson that we should draw from this is it's not even the things that we're posting that we have to be concerned about. We have to be thinking also about what are people posting about us, both people we know and people who we don't know. When you're at a party and someone takes a silly picture of you, what's going to happen with that photograph? Could it come back to hurt you? The answer, I think, is pretty clearly yes. I can tell you from my own personal experience, there have been 2 occasions in recent years where people's online digital footprint has torpedoed their career prospects. The first happened when I was working in Washington, D.C. I was looking for a writer. It needed to be someone who was very talented and would produce high-level material that we could use to then give to members of Congress and other policymakers. So the quality and the integrity needed to be top-notch. Well, I got a resume that blew my mind. I got a cover letter that was astoundingly well-written. And I was thinking to myself, this guy is too good to be true. So I did what every good person does in this day and age. I went on Google. And 1.16 seconds later, I knew that he wasn't the right guy for the job. How did I know? Because when I Googled him, I found that he had been involved with plagiarism. And he'd been busted. He'd been outed. And people had written about it online and in the media. I wasn't about to bring a plagiarist into our office and compromise the integrity of my department and my organization. His digital footprint did him in. Just a year ago, there was a young man who was, when I say stalking me, I don't mean in the scary sense, like he's showing up at my house or wanting to make rabbit stew of my kid's pet bunny. I mean, this guy was connecting with me on LinkedIn, friending me on Facebook. He was calling the office. He was sending me emails. He'd sent me his resume. He'd written a cover letter. He was liking my posts on LinkedIn. He was showing me that he really wanted to talk with me about what an asset he could be to our company. Told me what a great writer he was. Big mistake, because I wanted to see. And the writing was pretty good, but I checked out his blog. And what did I find when I trolled back a few months, a couple years skimming through? Well, I found that he had had a job, and he had disparaged his employer. And I thought to myself, well, that's not someone who we're going to bring in here. Too much of a risk. So, where does that leave us? It means all of us, before we go to share anything online, we need to do the two things that I'm describing to you. We need to share with care, and we need to post with purpose. So we need to hit the pause button, we need to think, and we need to consider that people all around us are going to be drawing conclusions about us based on what we're putting out there into the world. They're going to draw a conclusion about us. They're going to take all these different pieces of information that are out there into the world and piece them together like pieces of a puzzle to put together a picture of who they think we are. And at the end of the day, all of us need to consider, are we going to take to heed this discussion that we're having right now? And are we going to decide that not just some of the time, not just every once in a while, but all the time, are we going to think about what the implications are of what we share online? And instead of being an oversharer, are we going to be more cautious, more reserved, more strategic about what we put out into the world? Well, I hope that it's something that all of us will do and all of us will consider, because after all, our lives may depend on it. Thank you.